Hi there, this is Justin Krane, Certified Financial Planner Professional and founder of Krane Financial Solutions. Welcome to Money You Got This. So how can you really live? How? By uniting your business money, your personal money with your life and your business. Word up.
Krane Financial is an SEC-registered investment advisor. However, such registration does not imply a certain level of skill or training, and no inference to the contrary should be made. A copy of our current written disclosure statement discussing our advisory services and fees is available upon request. Information contained herein is for informational and illustrative purposes only, and general in nature. It should not be considered specific financial planning or investment advice, or a recommendation to buy or sell any type of securities or other investment products.
Hey everyone, welcome to Money You Got This. This show is brought to you by Krane Financial Solutions. I'm Justin Krane. I'm a Certified Financial Planner Professional, and I offer investment management services and act as a fractional CFO for business owners, in particular dentists. I'm the author of the book, Money You Got This. I'm psyched you're listening to the show. I want to give you this free report, 3 things multimillionaires do to grow their wealth. Just go to coolmoneyshow.com to grab it. That's coolmoneyshow.com to grab it. Thanks. Today we have someone who comes deep into dentistry. Her name is Mary Jane Hanlon. She has gobs of experience. Got into dentistry when she was 14. I want to welcome you, and then I'm going to read your official bio. Welcome, Mary Jane.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Justin.
Awesome. So since 1997, Dr. Hanlon has been active in the dental industry and owned and operated her own practice for 15 years. During her 2 years of matriculation, she created a list of all the things she wanted to know prior to starting her own dental practice. She got this huge list. She created a course at the Yankee Dental School, right, in conjunction with Bentley University, called the Mini MBA for Dentists. That's great.
Not all by myself, though. I used those principles, but I didn't do it all by myself.
But you were part of it.
I was.
There you go. In 2014, Dr. Hanlon became the Assistant Dean of Pre-Doctoral Clinical Education at Tufts, where she works to revamp the overall clinical environment. In 2016, she became the Associate Dean of Clinical Affairs, overseeing all of the undergraduate and postgraduate clinical operations. So Mary Jane's focus is on helping young dentists, starting them off right and getting them on the right foot. So look, we're in an unprecedented time with this coronavirus. So let me just start off by saying, let's first talk about the dentist, Mary Jane, that is in full practice mode and they're having to shut down. What kind of advice do you have for them?
So it's a really tough decision to make, right? And from especially a financial decision, because, you know, as a practice owner myself, you know, something like this can kill your practice. You know, we don't know how long this is going to last. I share the heartache that each one of them is having, because we don't know what's going to happen to our staff. We don't know what's going to happen to our patients. Patients do need care, though. So at the very least, they're going to have to provide emergency services. But I do think that we have to be really, really in tune with the emotional side of this. I think that so many people were in denial. In fact, I myself was in denial. I talked a little bit about this earlier this week with Manal Sampat on a podcast I did with her. And I can remember writing in my LinkedIn, post that you know, guys, it's very similar to the influenza virus, except that, you know, this has no vaccine and this has no cure. So, and the one thing that I didn't understand and further understand better today is that it's extremely contagious. So there's 3 different types of coronavirus. It's mutated a couple of times. The one is where you get very sick, and that's where people, you know, are ending up on ventilators, and they're very sick. Those are the ones that we are really concerned with. Right now, they're expecting at least 210,000 people are going to need the ICU by the height of this. So that's a scary number. We don't have that many beds in the country. So I don't know how we're going to manage that. I do know that we as a university, and I was really extremely proud of the president of Tufts University, Tony Monaco. He sent out an op-ed piece to the Boston Globe, yesterday it was printed, and offered the communities around where we have our campuses the ability to use our schools and our dormitories now that all the students are gone. So I think that's a really good way to contribute back to the community in such a crisis. I think we should all be thinking about that, but you know, some schools are more apt to be able to do it than others, but I got off track. So there's two other variables. The other one is where you can have a fever. It can last a week or two. It can last an hour. So everyone is a little bit different in how they manage this in their bodies. And then there are people that are walking around, which is the scariest part, that we have no idea that they're carriers of the coronavirus, and they could be spreading it to everyone. So those three things are very concerning, especially since we don't have a vaccine yet. We don't have, I know that they now know what the genome is, which is the DNA makeup of the virus, but being able to manufacture enough vaccine to cover everybody is going to be a challenge. Our supply chains are completely demolished because of this.
So what does a practicing dentist or specialist do right now? What's your best advice for them? I know that I've listened to a lot of what you've talked about with respect to taking risk, and I love talking about risk because I think it's a cool topic.
Sure.
What do you think, you know, should they be playing it safe? Should they be trying to, you know, maybe buy out another practice, consolidate, take market share? What do you think the average dentist should be doing right now? One that's producing and been out there a while.
So I think some of the older dentists may not be coming back from this. It's going to be a long enough time that they may think twice about this. But you have to understand that some of the older docs went through the recession in 2008. And one of the reasons why they're still working today is because they still might have to. So that's going to be a challenge. I do think that you know, everything that happens has an opportunity associated with it. It's a negative event, obviously. You know, it's nothing any one of us ever expected. I mean, I can't believe how much our lives, quote unquote, have changed in the very short amount of time that it has, but it's really significantly changed. Everything we're doing is very different. Grocery stores are empty. I don't think there's never been a time in my life that I've ever seen grocery stores empty consistently. So I think that they have to watch what's happening in their communities. I think it's critically important that we support one another. I think until all of this really kind of settles down, everything is going to be more apparent as we go through. And I think there's going to be opportunities there. I think that people just need to keep their eyes open. I don't think we should take advantage of people, though. I think that this is a time when we have to work together and support one another as a community. You know, I'm sure, you know, certified financial planners everywhere are working with their clients to help support them in whatever their needs are. I think we as an industry will do the same.
That's great. I've heard you talk a lot about how dentists come out of school and they're not really interested in business. They know the clinical side pretty down pat. But now we've got, let's say, someone who's like either an associate at a dental practice or starting their own practice and they're trying to build it. Now they're being forced to deal with the business a little bit because there is no business and they have to make some decisions on what they're going to do. So what do you think the biggest mistake a young dentist could make right now?
And that's a tough one. I actually think they're very interested in business, but they're more concentrating on development of their skills because that's what they really need to work on while they're in school. When they graduate, they are starting to get their feet wet. They're learning to increase their speed. And so I think they can watch what's happening in a business. And I think it's the time, that 2-year span of time, I recommend to my students to spend a couple of years learning. Try to find a mentor first or a residency that you can go to where you can be mentored by somebody who's really good at what they do. Or you can go to find, a private practice and work with somebody who will spend some time with you, and give you the leeway to increase your speed. One of the benefits of being in the profession for such a long time is that's a one area that I knew how the dental office worked, but I didn't know, I couldn't increase my speed any faster. So we all have that same challenge when we graduate. But the business side of things, they stop paying attention. They can actually learn a lot about the things they like and they don't like. And, you know, the way my mind works is, you know, I take lists and I think I like this and I don't like that. And, you know, I'm going to use this kind of a program instead of that program because I like the reports that this one goes. So experience and getting out there in a couple of different practices is a really good idea. I don't think any one of us are going to make any life-changing decisions over the next couple of months. I think, you know, I'm hearing about people, you know, walking away from buying new homes, walking away from buying other practices. I think that the uncertainty now is critically at the highest level, and it's only going to get worse. I think that we're challenged right now, and people don't know what to do. I know there's practices still working. I don't judge you. You have to do what you have to do for your patients and for your bottom line. And I agree. I totally understand. The recommendation is to stop working at least for the next 3 weeks. I think that we're going to see that. Unfortunately, that might be a little bit longer, which is really devastating.
Talk to me a little bit about communicating with patients, because I know that you know a lot about that. So what should the dentist be saying to their patients and also to their staff?
So we'll start with the patients first. So the patients have to know why you're shutting down. And I think that in this day and age, you know, everybody knows what's happening. I think older patients may not know as much, although I think that, you know, that era of patient will be the ones that will be going to the medical offices and the hospitals on a regular basis. So they're learning through their physicians why they can't go out and why they should stay at home. They're the ones that are going to be, you know, keeping all of their doctor's appointments because they're sick, right? But you and I, who might be healthy, you know, we're having all of our appointments canceled. Every patient should be asked, you know, 3 questions. Have you traveled outside the country in the past 14 days? That's going to be a moot point 2 weeks after the president gave his orders. But, you know, have you been sick or been with somebody that's sick? Have you been with somebody that's been diagnosed with COVID-19? And do you have a temperature? Do you feel well? You know, we're doing a lot of, you know, any patient that comes in for emergency at Tufts this week, we're checking their temperature, making sure that they don't have a temperature. We did treat one patient that had temperature this week, and we'll follow that patient up and make sure that they're not diagnosed, because I want to be able to tell my teams if they are. You know, everybody takes precautions. You know, that's the field of that we're in, is that's universal precautions have been something that we've been doing for a long time. In fact, I chuckled because, you know, people just think it's a new thing now to wash your hands. And I just chuckle, oh my gosh, we've been telling you for years to wash your hands, you know? I mean, that's one of the biggest ways that the influenza, the flu has been spread so rapidly. I mean, when I did the research and saw what the statistics were on the number of deaths just from the flu in 2017-18, 61,000 Americans died of the flu. I mean, that's a lot of people. And 4.5 million people were diagnosed with the flu. I just find that, I find it so surreal. I can't believe it's that high. So yeah, the older population, they need to know why you're canceling. They need to know that you're there. They need to know that you're caring about them. I have heard a lot of great things that practices are doing. They're calling their patients, they're checking up on them. How are you doing? We're doing okay. We're here. Let us know if you need us. I think that human touch is what people are going to need most, because with social distancing, you know, we're in that electronic digital age where we're always on our phone or on our computer and all that kind of stuff. So we've distanced a lot already. But oh my gosh, this is going to be the epitome of distancing. We're not going to be able to talk to each other unless we get on video like this and have a chat.
Yeah.
So
what about the staff though? What about the staff? What should the dentist do with their staff?
So I'm going through that with my own staff, and the staff are really, you know, especially entry level staff, they're very concerned that they're going to have a job, and I totally understand that. We have had to get rid of a couple of temporary people that we had hired because we don't need them at this point. So the staff, I think sitting down and having an honest communication with them and saying, okay, guys, you know, let's work through this together. Here's my situation. You know, here's the finances. I can, you know, I know there's a lot of projects that we can do. I'm more than willing to have you come in this week, do these projects, and let's see where we are at the end of the first week, and then go to the second week and see what needs to be done still. And if there's no projects left, I think the choice is, you know, either pay them. I have heard a lot of people are just going to pay for the 3 weeks, and it's not an option. They come in, they can go when they finish their projects and be with their families. And then there's some that are immediately sending them furloughing them or connecting them for unemployment. So,
yeah. I mean, how long can you pay people when you're closed? And of course, you want to pay them and support them, and they have families and their own expenses. But at what point do you need to put on your own oxygen mask?
Well, and I'm glad that you said that, because quite honestly, from a business standpoint, I totally get the revenue side of things. And I think that a lot of people in dentistry don't understand finance as well as they could. Even some of the docs, you know, they may not understand the balance sheet, and they may want to do the right thing and the humanitarian thing, which is to pay them, but they're going to, at what expense? At their expense? You know, are they going to be able to? And I think that no matter what happens, we're going to see, you know, banks are going to do something to support the small businesses. The government is going to do something to support the small businesses. You know, quite honestly, the whole world is in this together, right?
Yeah.
So we're not the only dental practices in the world, in the country, that are going through this. I mean, I can't imagine what Italy is going through right now. I don't know if you saw the news earlier today, but Italy has surpassed China with the number of deaths. And,
I lived in Italy for 2 years.
Did you really?
I lived in Italy for 2 years. I speak Italian. I have friends there. It's like a ghost town.
That's what I've heard also. We have a lot of residents from Italy here, and I know one in particular. I haven't had a chance to talk with him, and I don't know if he's going home or not going home. But you know, when things like this happen, that's what you want to do, is go home. But it's, you know, obviously it's a roulette game whether or not he'll get sick.
Yeah.
So.
I heard this story about you, that there was a college counselor who didn't quite think you could make it in something that you were going to do.
It was
and
high
you
school.
stuck it out. High school, okay. And you stuck it out, and you now, I don't know, let's just say he has egg on his face. So can you talk a little bit about that experience?
So it was high school, and not too long before then, I think I was about 14 years old. I had told my mom I wanted to be a dentist, and I can remember the look on her face. She's like, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, Mom, I want to be a dentist." And so she couldn't figure out, and I don't remember, you know, where I came to that conclusion. And she gave me the best piece of advice I've ever gotten, which was, you know, if you're going to do this, you better go see what it's like first, because you may find that you don't like it. She was thinking, oh, gross. You're going to be in somebody's mouth, really? That's what you like?
Yeah.
So I did. I got a job after school working for a dentist, and orthodontist. And immediately when I walked in the office, I absolutely fell in love. And I've been in an office ever since. But this guidance counselor, you know, I met with him because it was my junior year, and he said, "What are you going to do? Are you going to, you know, start working right after school?" And I said, "No, I want to go to college." And this was when not everybody went to college. Yeah, I'm dating myself a little bit.
Whatever.
So he said, "Oh, you want to go to college?" And he said, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to be a dentist." And he looked down his paper, and he looked back up at me, and he said, "Really?" no, dear, you want to be the hygienist. And I said, no, I want to be a dentist. I work in a dental office. I know the difference between the dentist and the hygienist, and I want to be the dentist. And he looked down his paper and he looked back up at me and he said, you're not smart enough. And in that moment in time, you know, I call it my defining moment. And I think we all have these in our lives. And in that one moment in time, I decided that nobody was ever going to tell me what I could or could not do.
I love
And
that.
it took me a long time to get there. I didn't graduate dental school until I was 40. So I spent 15 years as a hygienist first and then went to dental school afterwards. And, you know, it took a long time, but I couldn't have scripted my life any better, because one of the things that I can bring to the table when I do some coaching is that I understand all the aspects of the dental practice. I understand what it's like to be that kid after school just making confirmation calls and how to do that. I work the front desk. You know, I took out trash. I've done the hygiene thing, assisting thing, you know, so I've done it all, and I actually love every aspect of dentistry. It's just something that I don't know why. I have no idea how I got into it.
Awesome. That's great. So I want to end on a financial note. So what do you think a dentist should be doing right now with his or her finances? Like, I mean, like, I'm gonna just go on a little bit of a rant. I actually am writing something on this. It's not done yet, but like, you know, I'm like reading all these stories. Like, what should you do in light of the coronavirus? Have an emergency fund. Have 6 months expenses on hand. Hello, it's now 3 months or
you don't make those plans at a crisis, right?
You can't do that now. So
No.
what can you do now?
So here's some advice that I gave a recent graduate. She graduated in 2019. She's working for a practice that is not ideal. It's a doc that owns 7 or 8 practices. He's never there. He directs traffic with the associates. And one of the things that he told her, he said, you don't come in. He said, you don't have a job. And so she had to make the hard decision. And I said, okay, you know, let's start thinking through some of the things that you should do. And one of the things I told her, I said, I would call your bank and I would call all your student loans and talk to them about what's going on. I said, everybody is going to be relaxed with all of this and put you on a deferment. And then I'd start thinking about your finances. And I said, and what do you want to do? Do you want to start working on your buying a practice? Do you want to start working on, you know, starting a practice from scratch? And she wants to start a practice from scratch. So we're going to walk through that. And, you know, I just had Jamie Amos. I don't know if you've met Jamie from Ideal Practices. Great guy. I just had him come and talk to my students at the school because I'm getting very concerned that group practices are being stuffed, you know, like stuffed down the throats of these young dentists, and that they don't have any other options. And quite honestly, Jamie went through, you know, the finances and all of that, and this 13-step process that you need to go through in order to start and execute a successful practice. And I found it was really good for them to hear it. I can't tell you the number of students that came up to me afterwards and said, oh my gosh, Dr. Hanlon, we had no idea this was an option. And it is. That's you know, awesome. I started my practice from scratch, and I had a dentist tell me that, you know, that I was never going to make it in the town that I chose because there was 45 other dentists. I did fine. I you know, for me, there's something about, I'm not competing with anybody else. The only person I'm ever competing with is myself. And I want to be better today than I was yesterday. But, you know, anybody that thinks with a competitive mind is thinking scarcity, right? So they're keeping their mind small. And I think there's more than enough to go around. And you just have to provide the service that patients are expecting. And patients are expecting the service to be very high. I don't know if you've had a chance to hear Marko Vasuvich from the ADA.
I think so, yeah.
So, you know, there's multiple things, you know, impacts on dentistry, which this was not in his repertoire, but the astuteness of patients and the expectations that are coming from patients are really affecting our practices. And we have to make sure that we're educating them enough so that they feel confident that we can provide the care for them. So,
That's
I
great.
think all of those things we have to really start paying attention to. If you haven't already, I think most practices are, but if you haven't started paying attention to it, then you really need to spend some time doing that.
Awesome. Well, it's been great to have you on. Where can people go, in particular, dentists go, to find out more information on you and what you're all about?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. drmjhanlon.com is my website for consulting and speaking. And then I'm in the process. It hasn't launched yet. In fact, I'm trying to figure out how to maneuver through all of this event cancellation stuff. I had planned a brand new event called the Implant Symposium. It's part of my new Dentist Symposium series. And I'm scheduled to do it in June. It may end up being earlier. It may, and all online. So all of those things I'm working out. But the new Dentist Symposium is going to be probably online next week, the whole website.
So your site is Dr. M.J. Hanlon, mjhanlon.com.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Great
Justin,
to have you.
thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Have a question? Want to get in touch with us? Need some help and advice with your finances? Just go to coolmoneyshow.com and reach out to us. That's coolmoneyshow.com.
Krane Financial Solutions is an SEC-registered investment advisor. However, such registration does not imply a certain level of skill or training, and no inference to the contrary should be made. A copy of our current written disclosure statement discussing our advisory services and fees is available upon request. Information contained herein is for informational and illustrative purposes only and general in nature. It should not be considered specific financial planning or investment advice, or a recommendation to buy or sell any type of securities or other investment products. No investment decision should be made based solely on any information provided herein. We do not provide legal, accounting, or tax services. We recommend that all investors seek out the services of competent professionals in any of the aforementioned areas. Certain information provided has been obtained from third-party sources that we believe reliable. However, it's not been independently verified and is not guaranteed.